So if I can invite Will, who is at the back of the room, to come up and join me.
Here I come. Good old walk up.
Hi. So pleased to see you dressed up.
I've come from rehearsals. So this is my version of dressing up. Sport fashion.
I like it. Shall we do that next year?
Do you like it?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, actually, it's funny you mentioned that, because I thought, oh, should I get into some other clothes? And I thought, well, no, I'm sort of bringing my authentic self to the room. You know, I could have put on a suit, couldn't I? I could have, but I sort of thought, well, no, this is me today. This is me today. Yeah.
Good. So, how are you today? That is a very typical mental well-being question to ask. How are you today?
Yeah, it is, and it's always interesting, dependent on the person who asks it. I will modify my answer accordingly. If it's my mother, I won't say, well, I'm having some anxiety linked to being sent to boarding school when I was 8. Because she'll go, oh, there's 2 for 1 on smoked salmon in Waitrose. Won't even listen to what I've actually said. But if it's someone that I know has been working on themselves and is really genuinely interested in my emotional state, then I will, say, so today, right in this very moment, I'm really good, thanks. I feel very calm and kind of got my nerves under control, so I haven't gone into fight or flight response. So
I know all about that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I sort of did a bit of grounding techniques back in the back of the room.
The breathing.
Well, a lot of I do these kind of things. They get me in my body. Had a nice chat with a chap back there. Yeah.
Good.
So I love doing these things because I can be completely open and share, and it's quite a safe space.
But it hasn't always been like that. So I think it'd be good to share how you got from the Will Young that we knew back then to where you are now. Why are you working on well-being now? What happened to you?
Well, it's in a sort of bite size. How long have you got?
I've got several questions here.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I got to about 7 years ago, and I'd reached my kind of zenith of my work, really. I'd got #1 album, an album that I really thought was incredible. Massive house, blah, blah, blah. And I got in the house the same weekend as my album went to #1, single went top 5, I had a TV special, and I just thought I was kind of amazing. And I sat down in this beautifully designed house, and I thought, oh my God, I'm completely miserable, and I'm absolutely screwed, because I thought this was kind of it, So then I had a breakdown, which I would highly recommend. I quite like saying that, I've had a breakdown. I used to think, oh, breakdowns, my God. But actually, I'm like, I had a breakdown. I might have another one before I leave this world. And I just sort of literally had to go about reassembling my life. I got extremely ill. I got post-traumatic stress disorder. I got disassociation. So I couldn't see my face in the mirror for 2.5 years. And didn't really recognize people emotionally. And it was a little bit like being a ghost. And I really wouldn't wish it on anyone. But with a lot of therapy that I could afford, because I couldn't work, but also I could afford it, I have got better. And now I kind of feel like a success story for myself, Yeah.
And it was interesting talking to you, because you talked me through everything you went, which was quite shocking.
Yeah.
But you also then talked about how you look after yourself and how you looked after yourself to come back.
Now,
and I think that could be quite interesting to talk to the audience of what you've done to get where you are now.
Well, I remember when we spoke, I said I'm my employer and employee, so I'm in my own sort of little cocoon. Do you remember the 80s film, Cocoon? That was a funny film, wasn't it? I work a 4-day week, and I really try and stick to that. I can't do that this week because I'm going on the One show tomorrow with 45 dancers, but I will make that up. I give myself credits. So I will not be working next week. people don't know this yet, I'll be working 3 days next week, even though I've got a record out. So I store it up, and it's made such a huge difference. And now it's very easy for me to say, we'll just work a 4-day week, it's all so easy. I'm my own boss. But my work has not suffered at all. And my well-being, it is really good, One of the best things that ever happened was I was on a show called, I have to remember because I've done 2 shows with the title Strictly. I did the BBC dancing show, Strictly Come Dancing, and I left after 3 weeks. And it was the best thing I've ever done in my life, because I thought, because it was a lot of jeopardy. I lost a lot of money. It was bad for my business. The press wasn't great. I mean, I was in treatment anyway, so I didn't really see it. And, nightmare, celebrity nightmare. And they were horrible about me. And the irony was it was Mental Health Week. And, I thought, maybe check yourself. But I realized I could leave. I can leave. Like, if I'm having an awful time right now, I can just very gently say, I'm really sorry, I'm having a panic attack. And to keep myself safe, I'm just going to have to leave. And so after that, I realized I didn't have to say anything. So I'll give you an example of what happened recently. It's been a tough week this week for me, very emotional, not sure what's going on. And on Monday, I had to go and do Channel 4 News and the podcast. And I was doing local radio talks, interviews throughout the morning, and I just said I can't do it. I just said I can't do it. I went home, called my therapist, got back on track, and then was fine for Tuesday. If I'd ploughed through it, I might not have maybe made here, because I would have just ploughed on. And I thought, well, no, I don't have to do it. And that's a really liberating thing in all areas of life. I don't have to stay in this relationship. I don't have to stay in this friendship. So those 2 things of working a 4-day week and realizing that if it really is getting bad, take 2 hours out of the day, which I know we spoke about, and the difference it makes.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, I did that today. You weren't here earlier when I shared my own experience of just coming back into work now. I've had 5 months off, not as long as yours, but also PTSD and so on. And I took 2 hours out this afternoon because I couldn't have done this if I hadn't done that. Yeah. And that's normal. And you just go, actually, why do we plow through? And what's interesting talking to you is that you're your own boss as well. So you can afford to do that. Your other talents will get the money and you'll go, no. Yes. But what about employers where perhaps people will say, well, I can't just say I'm going to take 2 hours out or take a day off?
The compost has changed, though, now. This, I think, has REBA been going for 4 years?
4 years,
right?
Yes.
I would imagine this is probably the biggest one you've done in the 4 years.
Yes.
Reason being is that the compost has changed. Companies we're all worried about our wallets to an extent. And dependent on how philanthropic they want to be, they'll worry more about their employers or less about their employers. But the thing is, people worry about their brand. And people won't want to go, this is what I say to companies, they will not now want to do business with a company who doesn't look after their employers. It's changed now. Your brand is really important. And part of your brand now is looking after your employers. So, absolutely. A 4-day week, probably a little bit radical. But providing the right kind of therapy, going with the right kind of healthcare people. I mean, I spoke to a friend of mine in preparation actually for this, and she works in the city. She's just had a kid. I said, what's it like, the bank? What do they provide for you? And she goes, yeah, they provide a therapist, but the timings aren't right, because I've got my kid, and I don't really know if it's confidential because they're paying for it. All these things companies need to think about. And some are doing really well. Some companies I go into, I think, my God, they have, one company had a garden that you can go to, and bees, and you go gardening, and, all these things seem a bit wishy-washy, but actually they're so important. Yeah. So companies have to address it now. They didn't have to 5 years ago. But you've kind of got, like I say, the compost has changed. The pressure is now on them.
That's absolutely true. But we've got our employee wellbeing research out today. Lots of people have got the reports here. And we're still seeing that over 70% of organizations are saying, despite having done all these wonderful things and a huge increase in the number of companies with well-being strategies, and 3 times the number of companies have got mental well-being strategies, over 70% of companies say that high-pressure working environments are still impacting employee health. So something's still not right, something's still toxic, something's still
toxic, and also, just in a sense of the amount of hours that are spent there. I'd be interested what the percentage would then be for relationships. Is another major trigger, relationships, or parents at Christmas, probably 100%. We spend so much time at work. That is a very high figure, and I think that we need, hearing you earlier saying, we push through. We were talking about pushing through, and why do we do that? I think I heard you say, why do we do that? That mentality needs to change, and I think it's almost the equivalent of like having, when I was at school, the social notice board didn't have a poster saying, are you dyslexic? Or, this is dyslexia, or are you gay? I couldn't even imagine having that there. Now, they would have all different manners of posters. It should be the same in companies, and it takes a while. But it's just about it's always going to be stressful work. It is, but it's about helping people to manage it and showing that you don't have to do it like that. You can do it like that.
It's about the language that people lose as well. And
it's all about, someone's laughing.
Let's talk about language.
It is all about, I'm very big on language, and I'm very big on listening. One of the huge things is, for example, let's say conflict resolution. I think all companies, when I was in treatment, I would do a lot of group therapy. And I actually had a chat with someone from Facebook the other day who said, would you come over and do this for us? I was like, yeah, pay for a first-class ticket. We would do a very simple thing. You talk from the I position. You don't go you. You say, when I heard you say that, this is what I'm thinking about your idea. And what's coming up for me is, how about doing this? We should all be taught conflict resolution in businesses. I have absolutely no idea why we're not. Honestly, it would make it laser clean.
Yes.
We need, all employers want to feel, all we want to feel, it goes back to Marx, is that we're being appreciated and heard and listened to, and that our work is important.
Yes.
That's all we want. That's all I want. I've been doing this 18 years, and I come off stage, and if no one says, God, you sang that really, and I know I'm a really good singer. But if no, I do. I really mean that from not an arrogant place, but, self-belief. But I still want someone else to go, you sounded really good. Yes. I want that. So companies need to learn to validate their employees. And I think language is a key area where you do that.
Yeah, I think we still have a situation where too many managers, peers, talk to each other in a way they would never talk to family members or someone there. But why not? Why not be kinder and more compassionate? And you can be quite, derogatory to other people or belittling, and you might not mean it, but why is it acceptable in so many workplaces?
So Rufus Norris, who directs the National Theatre, I saw him a while ago, desperately trying to get a job at the National, and not true, and kind of true, and he's really worked on the internal structure of the National, and they rotate in meetings who chairs the meetings, and they look at the how many women chair it and how many men chair it, because often in meetings people are allowed to shame each other. My God, I've been in meetings at record companies, and they're just shut down immediately. And I think I've done it in the past, so I hold my hand up. Because it's like, oh, this is okay, I can talk like that, and say, shut the fuck up to someone. Why can you do that? And it needs to... I just feel like you have room now to challenge people for that kind of language. I know it's difficult, it's easy for me to say, being my own boss, but if you've got kids and you're, needing to pay the mortgage, are you going to go, excuse me, Colin, I didn't like it, to HR. I didn't like it when Colin, I don't know why I've called him Colin, when Colin told me to F off. It's like, well, are you going to do that? And that's the major problem. And I don't know if I have, like, the magic solution, but what we also need to look at what's going on outside the companies and what's going on in politics and what's going on in society and who's supporting that. Because if you're coming at the company from that side, they won't want to... I know someone that works... Oh, no, I can't say. And he works for a magazine, and I've told him to film what goes on with him. He's a friend of mine. I get it. When I'm feeling codependent, I almost cry because it makes me so irate. The way his boss talks to him makes me want to go in there and throw her out the window because I'm so protective. I cannot believe in this day and age that someone is doing that. And I've asked him to film her, but he won't because he wants to keep his job. You know, so it's so easy for me to say, but slowly pressure coming from the outside, and if there's one bit of exposure, and the companies seem to be really unpleasant, people don't want to work at that company.
No. This whole, we talked about this in the panel, I think, before you came into this room, the rise of inclusivity in a diverse and inclusive workforce, but you've got the rise of the Me Too organisation. All sorts of what were previously called marginalised groups was actually probably led up actually not being so small groups anymore, but they've been squished out in current culture. And workplaces looking perhaps more at safe spaces. I know you talk about safe space at work and not undermining people.
Safe spaces are so important because the thing is, there's one thing saying to me, let's say, talk about what's going on. But if I talk about it in a place that I'm just going to be completely invalidated, it just makes the situation worse. So that's the first thing, is if I want to communicate what's going on, it needs to be an environment that is safe and that actually there's connection and fluidity and I'm being heard and listened to. The second thing is that, and I was speaking about this, funny enough, just yesterday with a friend, about if I'm in... I went to a cycle class, worst thing I've done in my life, and I fell off the bike. But I was sitting there, and I live in a very white middle class area, and I thought, God, I think I'm the only gay man here. And I suddenly felt a little bit unsafe. I thought, how would I feel if it was an LGBT cycling class? And I thought, God, I think I'd feel safer. And I think we need to think about that in businesses. So there's that element, safe spaces. But we have to... People cannot use what we choose to share back on us. And that is one of the nubs of why we don't like to share our vulnerabilities. Because someone could throw it back in our faces. So we have to show employees that this is not going to happen to you. You know what I mean? Because that's imperative. Absolutely imperative.
Talking about safe sharing, I'm going to switch now to some of the questions that are coming in from the audience.
Oh.
And on the screen there.
You've got the racing on this screen. Brilliant.
As long as it's not the cricket. I'm a South African, not happy about the cricket. Don't mention the cricket.
I'm sorry.
So, how do you get more men to open up about their mental health? Do you receive a lot of stigma about it, being in the spotlight as a man?
I just have to think about that. How do you get men to open up? I think that it is removing the shame. And it's about showing that it is okay to be anything other than strong and the provider, an alpha. And not, it's okay to not be coping. It's okay to be scared. In fact, if it was me, quite like this, I would, using the analogy of the poster, of the notice board, I would have those statements. Because those are gender stereotypes for men. Be strong, be the alpha, provide, never feel scared. So I would just have that out there and then have the outlet for men to do it. But I definitely think it's getting better. Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah. I'm going to, by the way, that's been filmed, so if anyone uses that, I will sue you.
Another question, oh, sorry, they keep switching it as I'm doing it. How did you coach those around you, so colleagues, friends, family, to support you during your breakdown?
Yeah.
Really good question, that
Very
one.
good question, and I'm going to use that word again, imperative. The thing that comes up for me hearing that question is, I don't need to be fixed. That would be my thing.
Yeah.
I don't need to be fixed. I don't need someone to come in and go, oh, don't worry, why don't you do this? Or, you know, a very common thing, I was just talking to a lovely chap outside, is people say, oh, don't feel angry. And I'm like, well, you've just completely invalidated my feeling there. Thank you very much. Because it's quite shaming, actually, that language. Don't feel angry. Don't feel sad. You've got a great life. You know, oh, don't be depressed.
Yeah.
I'm like, F off. I don't need to be fixed. I just like to be listened to. That would be my thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about being listened to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number one
And
thing.
acknowledged.
Yeah. But that, by the way, just to say, that comes with a caveat. That, and I will use my Annabelle Young, who I absolutely adore, my mother. You know, I might say that to her, but it doesn't mean she's going to do it. I just need to, you know, we might want that, but don't expect that it might happen. Mm-hmm. I said to my mother once, oh, I'm really excited, I'm changing my therapist. You know, it's just going to be brilliant. And she's sitting opposite me and she goes, yeah, I swam 20 lengths today in the swimming pool. I thought, she hasn't listened to a word I've said. You know, like I'd love to have it happening, but, you know.
Not happening.
No, absolutely not.
I want to ask a question that we discussed last week, and that is about the responsibility between an employee and an employer for their where they're working. So this idea of the employer might be doing all the best they can with a brand, but if there's a wrong fit with the employee and the employer in terms of the values or the kind of you work at a law firm or you work at the stock exchange, it's going to be busy.
Yes.
So there is a responsibility as well on the employee. It's not all about the employer.
Oh my God, I'm getting excited. So someone's got their hand up. So I just spoke to my friend this morning. Had a big meeting yesterday with big cheese. And I came away and I was like, I don't know if I like this industry. You know, it's like, it's got a lot of, you know, how relevant are you? And that's very invalidating, and I don't like it. And I said, I think I'm in the wrong industry. And I have to deal with that. That's my responsibility, not anyone else's. It's on me. Yeah. If I want to work this job, then I'm going to have to handle the fact that I come across some things that aren't great for me. This, incidentally, is a way of helping me with the fact I'm performing tomorrow. 100%, because I'm in a room talking to people, sharing, people are hopefully interested, I'm enjoying it. It'll help me with the sort of the sides of my singing career that I find toxic, boring, not sustaining, and it brings out all my insecurities. But it is on me to do that. So I think that's a great thing to bring up.
So we're responsible for the start of your tour tomorrow?
You are responsible for whether my performance goes well tomorrow. Hey, listen, I don't want the pressure, but you chose it. On
collectively,
your head,
I think we will be fine.
Oh, it'd be lovely if we were all there tomorrow. By the record.
Launching tomorrow.
That kind of crap I can't bear. You know what I mean?
Is a breakdown necessary, or do you genuinely believe that companies can address well-being early to prevent employees reaching that point?
Oh, yeah, 100%. There's two areas with that, and I was chatting to a few people about that out there, people that have apps, and I thought it was wonderful to get to the, you know, stop it before it reaches crisis point. There are two areas of that. Sometimes we have to get to crisis point to know we're there. Do you know what I mean? Human nature, we're kind of going to push it until we realise, oh crap, that doesn't work anymore. So for me, it was like, oh, I really thought buying a Porsche would help, but it hasn't, you know. Or for someone else, it could be, I really thought if I got back with my boyfriend for the 7th time, I could avoid all this pain. So kind of, we're always going to push it, you know. However, and maybe that's for very deep emotional stuff, yeah, you can prevent it. And I think all these apps and ways that you can do things throughout your week, and rate, if you're rating yourself, how am I doing today? Oh, how am I doing today? Oh dear, I think I'm heading somewhere. How is my sleep? I think that's really useful. And I think now, to be honest, I will come away today from this thinking, oh, I think I might get one of those apps. I'm not on a percentage. But you don't have to have a breakdown. Of course you don't. Particularly if the company has got a climate of well-being and understanding. And I went into a big law firm the other day. I think it was a law firm. And they were unbelievable. I did not know law firms like that existed. High stress. And my God, the amount of people that turned up to hear me talk, other people talk, and what they had on offer, I thought was amazing. So all those things can help prevent and ease the stress that we can get in our work lives. No, you don't have to have a breakdown.
Good.
Even though it's fun.
So one more question. Which one shall I pick? Have you tried holistic therapies to help your emotional well-being? If so, what did you do and did it work for you?
Yeah. I mean, as a friend, as my best friend said to me, if there's a problem, throw everything at it. I had like rosemary oil. I went to see a shaman. I suppose that would be holistic. And she cured my disassociation, which can't really be cured by modern medicine. And, that would be a whole other talk. And I didn't expect that. And that was rather remarkable. Well, she cured it, I'd say 70% of it. Anything with energy work, holistic, I've got a real theory on fear, if our fight or flight or freeze or fawn response, which is the fourth one, a kind of faint response, is up, we are not in a good place. So full stop. Let's forget what our mind is doing. We're then not in a good place. So sometimes, if you really literally just go and have a massage, go and see a cranial therapist, go and have acupuncture, most of the time, I'd say 80%, people come out feeling a lot better and their mind isn't worrying as much. We forget about our body, and what we do is we think that sometimes these things like massages, cranial osteopathy, even like stretching is all holistic. It's not. Like, we carry all this stress in our bodies. That's why we get tension up there. So, yes, I've done a lot of holistic thing, and I do more holistic stuff now than I do talk therapy. Definitely.
Wonderful.
That would be my main recommendation for anyone. Yeah. Oh. That was your question? Well, 10 out of 10 for you.
Can you see your fans in the front row here?
Any fans? A little wave. Thank you. From behind the camera.
Well, I'm going to have to draw it to a close. We've had a very long day here, and I think we shouldn't keep pushing ourselves.
No.
We need to go and relax. But thank you. That was really interesting talking to you and very useful
Thank you for
information.
having me. Thank you for listening. Yeah.